Have you ever been producing a track and it just feels a bit empty? Or have you ever been adding things to a track and it's still lacking that energy? Well, more often than not, the answer is going to be texture. In this video, I'm going to talk through why texture is super important and why it's such a big game changer in music production. And then I'm also going to show you a few different examples like chord and synth texture, some rhythmic and drum texture, and then arguably the most important one, a ceiling. Putting a ceiling on your track when you really want to get that energy. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to do these 3 things. And I stream over on Twitch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So if you have any questions or if there's anything you want me to run over again or go into more detail, that's the place to go. Links down below. Okay, let's bring your production to the next level. Here's some things I wish I knew when I started making music. So, we're going to look at a few texture examples through the beat I did for the 4 producers 1 sample challenge, because I have a few different types of textures here, so I'll run through all of these and then I'll go to another track and I'll run through a few different textures. Alright, cool. Let's listen to this track just so you get an idea of what's happening. Sweet. Okay, there's a few textures running in there. Let's break them down. The first one I'm going to talk about is a piano. It sounds like this. I'll get the MIDI up so you can see it. So it's playing the chords. Nice. So it's playing the chords and it's hitting a few interesting notes, but nothing too crazy. Everything's within the key. The main thing is we can hear it sustains through the whole 4 bars that we just heard there. So it sustains the whole time and we can hear there's a bit of sidechain going on. So it's adding to the bit of the bounce and the bit of the movement that we're getting into the piece. So there's our first texture. It's just a piano playing the chords. You can also do the same on a synth. If you had a synth just playing the chords and have maybe a bit of sidechain going on it, give it a bit of bounce, and you can pan it out wide or give it a bit of rhythm. Yeah, it's just filling out the sound and just making everything a bit more thick. This next texture thing is just a game changer. It's probably the thing that just changed my music instantly, along with the impacts and risers, which actually I'll link up I'll link up above. This is called a ceiling. What is a ceiling? A ceiling is just as it would in a house. It's the top part, right? It has a roof. In music, a ceiling is a type of texture which adds so much excitement to a track. Now, it's not used very commonly in productions that aren't pop music, but in pop music, so many, especially those really, you know, those cheesy pop songs, 10 times out of 10, it has a texture ceiling in it. So a ceiling is always high frequencies and it's very exciting. Could just be loud violins, just holding one note, playing something in the key. It's always high frequencies. So that's a ceiling. That's why it's up above you. Cool. Or at the top of the mix. So let's have a listen to our ceiling in this bit. Cool, as you can hear, it's very high piano notes, and then we have a bit of sidechain giving it a little bit more bounce, so our texture is really helping with our sidechain in this track, and it's rhythmic as well, and it's syncopated to the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear the sidechains hitting on the downbeats, and then the piano notes are hitting on the syncopated the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's adding a rhythmic dimension to this, but most importantly, it's our ceiling. It's adding excitement in high frequencies, a game changer in texture. So please mess around with that. You can use violins, even just held notes, straight held notes, but in this case, I thought we'd add a bit of rhythm as well, because why not? There was space for it. Great. Okay, so ceiling. Definitely do try out some ceilings in your texture. Next, we have just some random notes. We have some piano chops. So let's listen to that first before we talk about it anymore. Nice. And just like the ceiling, it's panned. So it's adding excitement and interest around our head. It might be hard to hear if you're listening on a phone, but it's going right around your head with different sounds. We can see they're panned here. So I have 4 of these. He's down the center. He's all the way to the right. We see here, he's panned all the way to the right. This guy's panned all the way to the left. And this guy's center as well. So we have 2 centers and we've 1 out the right and 1 out the left, fully panned. So it's just adding a bit more of a dimension, just random bits of interest jumping around. Let's just mute them and have a listen. And then we add them in. Yeah, it's just adding that bit of rhythmic interest and also just filling up the empty space. And that's one of the main things of texture. We need to fill up that empty space. It's just a total game changer. Sweet. Okay, cool. Those are the 3 main textures we have. Let's play them together. So we have our ceiling first. That's adding the excitement in high frequencies. We have a piano holding the chords. Nice. And then we've got our 4 rhythmic guys who are also panned, just like the ceiling. There we go. Texture is a game changer. And the last thing I want to talk about this project is we can actually have drum texture going on as well. I have this drum loop going on, and let's have a listen to it here. I have a stereo spread, so it's all the way around your head. and then it starts becoming a riser at that point. But for these 6 bars, it's a texture. You can kind of define what you want it to be. But what is it? It's a sound that we can't really pick out, but it's there. And if it's not there, there's a little bit of a gap. There's a little bit of a hole, and it's not quite as full as a track would be with it. So let's have a listen without it. And then with it. And then we'll start to hear it there because the auto filter is coming up, the cutoff is rising up, so we can actually hear more high frequencies. You can see there, it's just something there. It's somewhere around your head. In the headphone, it's very clear. There's just something happening, and it's just filling that gap, and it's just interesting and it's exciting. It's texture. Maybe it's Maybelline. I just love that idea of having a rhythmic texture as well. I wouldn't do it the whole time because sometimes it can really put off the other drums, but these drums are quite basic. We have here in this section, so there's lots of room for little syncopated hits coming around. With drumless, you pretty much have to take out the high end or else it'll just get in the way of other things. So that's why I use the cutoff filter. Now I want to talk about a few different types of textures, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to go to a different project. So 1 second, BRB. Okay, so here's a track that you might have heard before. It was from a different tutorial, maybe like 2 months ago or something. Have a listen out for vocal texture, okay? There's like oohs and ahs. I might leave the vocal in as well, just so you can hear that.
I came in like a wrecking ball, never meant to let you in. Instead of using all the force, I guess I should let you in. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I remember from that tutorial there was way too much reverb, as you can hear down the lead vocal, but that's not the point. Let's mute the lead vocal for the minute, okay? And let's have a look at the texture. Could you hear it? It is this stuff coming out here. Where are you? Where's our vocals? Ah, here we are. Lovely. Hiding group on us here. So let's solo these. So we've got a few different vocals here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different vocals. Let's have a listen to these guys. Yeah, I like them. Sweet. As you can hear, I love putting sidechain compression on my texture stuff. It helps so much add to the bounce, and you don't want them to get in the way. Texture's not meant to get in the way. It's just adding excitement and just interest and filling up the gaps in the piece. So if you can add to the bounce using it, I do that all the time, pretty much, you can see. So here's our vocal group, and you can see how just going like simple oohs along the chord progression. So it's similar to the piano part. We're using a vocal, and there's just something more emotional hearing vocals play chords or sing chords, I suppose, than any instrument, I find, just because it's so much more honest, authentic. I don't know, it hits the emotion a little bit more. So I love using vocal hums or oohs in texture. So definitely give that a go. Let's have a look at what we did and how you can do it yourself now. So we have this vocal here. So he's panned to the left. Then I've got another one panned exactly the same to the right, but you can hear there 1 5. It's a fifth. Da, da, da. Could be going to far scump there. Da, 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 da. Let's have a look at the next one. So this guy's out the right, and then the one after him's out to the left. So I'm balancing two together. They're like matched pairs, but I don't think they're the same notes. Let's have a listen to the first one. Yeah, same again. Bit of melody in there, so they complement each other. They're having slight movement and taking turns. They're kind of call and response. Those two are panned right and left, and then the last ones are panned fully right, fully left. Similar again. Harmonies to each other. Cool. I've just EQ'd out some high end, some low end for sure. The high end's optional. Depends if you want the airiness or they seem to lack a bit of presence when you've taken out the high end. You don't hear them as much. Oh, actually the first two do have some high end just to get some breathiness in there. I would definitely suggest taking out the low end. Just you don't want your texture usually more often than not to get in the way of anything else. It's just adding mids and highs. And that's what they like together. Sidechain, some pitch shifter, EQ'd out lows and highs. And pans, so nothing too crazy, and I've definitely tuned them. Cool. Yeah, definitely tune them as well using the flex pitch. All right, lovely. And that's the main thing I wanted to point out in this project here. Vocals as texture, instant emotion. It's a bit of a game changer. You can always pitch shift stuff. So even if you don't think you can sing, record in one note, pitch shift it, and then you can make harmonies out of that one note. It might sound a little bit electronic, but that's a vibe. I think this sounds pretty electronic, but it still works, you know? All right, so that's another type there. Okay, sweet. Just throw texture in. It'll help you a lot. Hopefully these examples helped in some way. I'd highly suggest trying the vocal part. I just think that gets the most emotion just because it's coming straight from the human. It's just a bit more authentic. So definitely try that out. Cool. All right. Let's look at the music making. Cheers.